Why can't his lordship?
Because the Earl is giving away the bride. Stoker's mouth twitched, but he maintained a serious expression.
Very well. But whilst I am marrying two tortoises, what will you be doing?
Me? I smiled graciously. Why, I am to be a bridesmaid. I would like to say that a tortoise wedding was the most eccentric of the tasks to which we applied ourselves during our time in his lordship's employ. However, I have vowed to be truthful within these pages. Even as I persuaded Stoker to officiate at reptile nuptials, I was keenly aware that we were perched on the precipice of a new and most dangerous investigation. Our previous forays into amateur detection had been largely accidental, the result of insatiable curiosity on my part and an unwillingness to let well enough alone on Stoker's. He claims to involve himself in murderous endeavours solely for the benefit of my safety, but as I have saved his life on at least one occasion, his argument is as specious as Lamarck's theory of inheritance. We had just emerged from a harrowing ordeal at the hands of a murderer in Cornwall when we were summoned back to London by Lady Wellingtonia Beauclerk, Lord Rosemoran's elderly great-aunt and éminence grise behind the throne. For the better part of the 19th century, she and her father had made it their mission to protect the royal family, not least from themselves. Lady Wellie meddled strategically, and no one save the royal family and a handful of very highly placed people of influence knew of her power. She dined twice a month with the Archbishop of Canterbury and regularly summoned the Foreign Secretary to tea, and the head of Scotland Yard's special branch held himself at her beck and call. This last, Sir Hugo Montgomery, was my sometime ally, albeit grudgingly on his part. He knew, as did Lady Wellie, that my natural father was the Prince of Wales. I was unacknowledged by the prince, which suited me perfectly, but my very existence was dangerous. My father had undergone a form of marriage with my mother, entirely illegal, as she was an Irish woman of the Roman Catholic faith, and he was forbidden by law to wed without the permission of his august mother, Queen Victoria. "But he always was a romantic," Lady Wellie once told me with a fond sigh. "There are other words for it," had been my dry response. Lady Wellie did not appreciate levity where her favourites were concerned, and my father occupied a particularly cosy spot in her affections. For that reason, perhaps, she was sometimes indulgent with me, turning a blind eye to my unconventional occupation as a lepidopterist. Butterfly hunting was a perfectly genteel activity for ladies, so long as one was properly chaperoned and never perspired. But I had made a comfortable living from my net, travelling the world in search of the most glorious specimens to sell to private collectors. Even if my parents' union had been a conventional one, sanctioned by both church and state, the fact that I frequently combined business with pleasure, using my expeditions to exercise my healthy libido, would have made it impossible for the prince to recognize me officially as his child. That Lady Wellie had, in the days of her robust youth, indulged regularly in refreshing bouts of physical congress no doubt influenced her attitude of bland acceptance to my discreet activities. In fact, she had encouraged them on more than one occasion, at least as far as Stoker was concerned. In spite of his numerous attractions, and the fact that we were both more than a little in love with one another, we had hitherto resisted the more primitive blood urges. Stoker frequently swam in whatever available pond or river provided a chilly respite, and I submerged my yearnings in rigorous scientific study and the odd evenings spent sampling the collection of robust phallic artifacts I had been sent by a grateful gentleman who had escaped the noose thanks to our efforts on his behalf. But in the course of our most recent adventure, Stoker and I had cast off our reticence at last, acknowledging that the curious mental and emotional